See this little black box? Looks boring and bland, and you may think that, but you'd be wrong. You see, hidden inside is an incredible radio, an SDR or software-defined radio. Hi, I'm Julian Frost, N3JF, and I'll be your radio sensei as I guide you through all things amateur radio. So get ready, I'm about to show you something great. Onegaishimasu. Today, we're going to talk about this thing here, the software-defined radio receiver from SDRplay. Well, actually not. We're really going to be talking about the software that drives these little black boxes and allows us, the user, to use the SDR unit to its fullest. To tell us more about SDRplay the company and SDRuno the software that makes these amazing boxes do some pretty awesome things is Steve Brightman, KI5ENW, North American Division Chief of SDRplay. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Julian. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. What do you have for us to talk about today?
Well, I primarily want to talk about software today, but I just want to say a few words up front to bring people up to speed that may not be familiar with our product family. So I'll try and be real brief here. We're a very small UK-based company. I myself am based in Dallas, Texas, however. And we make a family of very wide bandwidth software-defined radio receivers, starting from the RSP-1A, which is geared towards maximum performance at minimum cost, going up through the RSP-DX, which replaced our older RSP-2 Pro, which is in a metal box and has 3 software selectable antenna inputs. And it also has a new trick. It has a so-called high definition range down below 2 megahertz, which is very good for people working LF and VLF. And then at the top of the range, we have the RSP Duo, which is a dual tuner device. And that those tuners are both synchronized. And that gives us the ability to do diversity tuning, either for maximizing the signal-to-noise ratio of a desired signal, or for nulling out an undesired signal, or indeed for direction-finding applications. So that is the basic product family we have. And then the software is called SDRuno and has been optimized for use with any members of the family. And that's what I really want to concentrate on talking about today.
Excellent. Now, I understand there's a new release of the software that has something about plugins?
Yeah, SDRuno, we just recently released version 1.4. Actually, the current version is 1.40.2 to be specific. But this included a major new feature, which is the use of plugins. And what the plugins do is they allow you to extend the capability of what you can do with SDRuno, both in terms of working with peripherals or working with third-party software. And the way it's been set up is such that some plugins are defined by SDRplay ourselves, but it's designed to be available to the community. And we're encouraging third-party developers to generate their own plugins to enhance the usefulness of the SDRuno software when used with an RSP. So by way of a demonstration, I'd like to run a short video here that was made by my colleague John over in the UK, which illustrates one of the built-in plugins that comes with SDRuno called the DX Cluster plugin.
I'm now going to demonstrate the DX Cluster plugin in SDRuno. So here's the plugin panel where you can highlight the DX Cluster plugin and load it. Up comes the DX Cluster plugin control panel. And first of all, just a couple of words about what is a DX Cluster. So this is a telnet-based network of computers that are each running a software package specially capable of gathering and disseminating information logged by radio amateurs on particular DX call signs that they've spotted around the globe. So a lot of these are interconnected, and depending on which is your favourite, you'll tend to find much of the same information is shown. and taking a look at the control panel here. Let's just start it going while I talk a bit about what's going on here. You'll notice in terms of the status, it's now running, and there's a little count number that's going up. What this is the count of new call sign postings that have appeared on the network, which you'll see in a minute are actually going to be annotated onto the spectrum display. There's a time in the top right hand corner set as a default to 5 minutes. You can change this. What this means is that the call signs which are being displayed are going to persist for 5 minutes, because obviously over time they become out of date. But you can play with this number. Let's now take a look at one or two of the other bands, because what this tells me is that there's now 10 brand new call signs being added that people have spotted somewhere within the HF amateur bands. So it looks like none on 40. Let's try 80 meters. Look, there's 1, 2, 3 stations have been logged, which are there's a UE3 and RL3 and RO3. Let's have a look at 20 meters. There's quite a few call signs appearing there. You'll notice there's some other things you can adjust here, which is where the baseline is for the annotation to appear on your spectrum display. The default is -70 dB, which is this line here, the -70 dBm line. If there are multiple stations close together, it doesn't drop down with another yellow line, but you can see, you can just line this up and obviously see if you can actually go and catch some of these signals.
Okay, Jean-Claude, François, nous avons travaillé avant. In August, 20 mai, on 20 meters avec toi, Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude, merci. 56 pour vous. Je m'appelle Bob. Bravo, Oscar Bravo, Montpellier, West Virginia. 73 à bientôt from Kilo 8 November Yankee.
Yeah, so that was a nice demo. You heard K8NY, so it really does work. Conditions are obviously favourable, because this obviously depends a lot on the propagation of the time. So it's but it's a very, very neat capability, and depends very much on this network of amateurs adding and contributing to it.
Wow, that's impressive. I love how clean the display is. I mean, even when there are a lot of DX stations close in frequency, zooming in also keeps the display clean, right?
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, like a lot of people may be interested primarily in CW transmissions, so they can zoom in on the lower part of the bands where the CW transmissions tend to be, along with the FT8 and so forth. Mm-hmm. Or you may want to zoom in on the voice transmissions. And the DX cluster plugin is really good because it's got that persistence feature. So you don't see old stuff. You only see hams that are operating at that particular time, which makes it constantly updated for you.
I guess I should also point out that the John in the video was John Hudson, G4ABQ. John is the co-founder and director of SDRplay, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, John and I go back a long way. We were actually at school together many years ago. And, John is still based in central England. And he was quite pleased when he put that clip together that we just showed, that he was actually able to pick up a ham operating in North America. And I believe he's got a G5RV type antenna strung between some trees in his backyard.
I know a lot of hams are going to find the DX cluster really useful, especially if they're running SDRuno as a pan adapter in their shack. What other plugins do you have for us, Steve?
Yeah, well, in somewhat similar vein, whereas DX cluster is targeted specifically at hams talking to hams, a lot of us also like to listen to shortwave broadcasts. And this gives me an opportunity to demonstrate to you one of actually the first community plugin that was developed by a gentleman by the name of Eric Cottrell. And Fran is the name of it. It stands for Frequency Annotator. And what it's able to do is pull in information from various frequency databases. And then as you're scanning through the bands and tuning in stations, you can see which station it is you're listening to. And it's a really useful feature. And as I say, it's an example of what the community can develop to expand the capabilities of SDRuno. So I made a short clip here, and it kind of shows you what's going on.
1080 KRLD, your news now. Can we do more to enforce the rules?
Fran, or Frequency Annotator, was one of the first plugins developed by the user community. In this example, I have a memory bank selected, which lists all the local AM broadcast stations. As you can see from the memory panel, I have previously put in the description field the call signs for each station. Now let's start up Fran. The plugin window may be open by default when you start SDRuno. Here it's in the upper right hand corner. However, if it is not open by default, it can be opened by clicking on the Plugins button in the main window. Now we're going to select Fran and load the program. Now we can select a file, and what we will do now is we will navigate to find where my memory banks are, which in my case is in a directory under Documents, SDRplay and Memory Banks, but you can navigate to wherever you have included your memory banks. Now the type of file in a memory bank is an S1B, so rather than SW-SCEDS we have to select bank. And now we see all my memory bank files, and we can select AM broadcast. And now you can see the annotations appear on the spectrum for the AM broadcast band. But Fran isn't limited to just memory banks that you've already created yourself, and one of its great strengths is the ability to load in external databases for much more general purpose SWL listening. So if we return to File Manager, we can now open it up, and this time we'll navigate towards the default Community Plugins folder, which by default when you install is under Documents, Community Plugins, and there you see an SW-SCEDS file which we can now open up. Once we've done that, you see the annotations are very densely packed, and in fact you will probably want to zoom in to take full advantage of this. But let's go look at some of the other SWL broadcast bands. Now you see there's not quite so much density going on there, but again you may want to zoom in for best results. It's kind of fun just to move through the bands, select each band in turn, and straight away Fran will indicate to you any of the standard broadcast stations appearing on any given frequency, which makes it very easy to identify any stations you find. You can further refine the default database by going up to the source drop-down in the Fran window, and you can select various different sources from that window and find ones that are best suited for any particular band that you happen to be exploring. Fran is a really great add-on for enhancing your listening enjoyment on shortwave, and we owe a big debt to Eric Cottrell for developing this and donating it to the community.
That's actually really cool. I love that. Are all the plugins about annotating the display though?
No, and that's a very good question, because it would be a mistake to think that's the beginning and end all of what the plugins can do. It's one very useful feature, but one thing you can do with plugins is you can use them to simplify the interface to other third-party software. A lot of people like to decode FT8, for example, and invariably when you're hooking up to third-party software, you need to get a virtual audio cable to send the output from SDRuno to the virtual decoder, and anytime that third-party software is capable of defining a frequency, for example if it's a logging program, you then have to set up virtual COM ports to allow communication back and forth between the two. So there are many different capabilities, and again we have another community plugin I'd like to show you, which was developed by Black Cat Systems. And it was designed to simplify the interface between SDRuno and some of their own software packages. And for that, I'd like to run a little clip from my colleague Mike down in Florida, and he demonstrates using it with the Black Cat Systems software.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Mike, KD2KOG, part of the technical support staff at SDRplay. Quick video, I want to show you guys a new plugin that was developed by Black Cat Systems. And this plugin interfaces with Black Cat Systems specific software. It interfaces with 3 independent packages, and the first one is DX Toolbox from Black Cat Systems. The second would be their HF WeFax decoder, and their third is a slow scan TV decoder. Now, with any of these plugins, you do not need to use a virtual audio cable. You do not need to use a virtual COM port emulator. You don't have to do anything. You just have to launch it and set it up to use the streaming function built into the plugin. But let me show you. Okay, I have the WeFax decoder launched. In the program, you're going to have to go into the preferences and select Use SDRuno plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and check that, and I'm going to select streaming. Okay, the plugin is streaming. It's getting data. And now what I'm going to do is go into the schedule function and see what WeFax stations are transmitting right now, and see if I can do a quick decode. And as you can see, let's mute this here. As I'm clicking on stations, it's automatically tuning, and it's sending the audio over UDP into the decoder. And let's click start, and let's see if we get a slight image. I'll do this one quick, and then we'll head over to slow scan TV, and then I'll head over to the DX Toolbox. So this is working. You can see I'm decoding a weather fax right now. So let's go ahead and close this out, and let's load up the slow scan TV decoder. So let's go ahead and launch this. Okay, we're going to go into the setup. We're going to check off Use SDRuno plugin, which we're using. Let's reload the plugin. Click streaming. And make sure we have streaming in here as the input. And we'll unmute it. And we can unmute it from here also. Now, let's go into setup and select one of the slow scan TV frequencies, 14.230. And it tunes SDRuno perfectly fine. I don't think we're going to pick up any slow scan TV. The bands are really rough right now, and there's not many people on. But I'll leave it here for a couple minutes. Oh, there we got one. Okay, now DX Toolbox is a very complex, very good piece of software. It's for propagation, it's for logging, it's for satellite tracking. It gives you a ton of options in here. But let's just go ahead and set this up first. We're going to go to Help, Setup. You're going to want to put your latitude and your longitude, and you're going to want to put your call sign. And very important, select SDRuno plugin. We'll click OK. And there's 3 features in DX Toolbox that SDRuno can control or receive information from using the Black Cat Systems plugin. And that is the Volmat and Maritime Weather Station section, the Traveler's Information Station information, and the Shortwave Broadcast Schedule information.
As I understand it, Mike is a technical support staff member at SDRplay, right?
Yeah, that's correct. He's based down in southern Florida. He does a lot of videos demonstrating using various software with SDRuno. They're called Mike's Ham Guides, and you can find them referenced on our website. We've just dedicated a channel just to all Mike's videos.
So how can I find out more about the plugin, Steve?
Great question. The plugin activity is very dynamic right now. One thing we haven't mentioned so far is there's another plugin that allows you to hook up a contour shuttle controller to SDRuno, and we're expecting to see a lot more coming out in the forthcoming months. So much so that we've actually set up a web page on our website, SDRplay.com/plugins, which contains a wealth of information both for users. If you just want to know what plugins are there and how to download them, you'll find that information there. But also if you're a developer, we put together a developer's kit to allow anyone to generate their own plugins to use with SDRuno. And of course, if you want to develop your own plugin, our software staff will help you as much as they can to get you across any hurdles that may come up.
Well, Steve, I have to tell you, the SDRuno software is really exciting, and the addition of community plugins gives the software, I think, almost unlimited potential.
Yes, indeed, and we're very grateful that HRO picked up the product line. And I guess unless you're going to do it yourself, I should remind people to check the HRO website because there always seems to be some specials going on our receivers, especially as we approach Black Friday and the holiday season. And talking of which, obviously HRO has a group on Facebook, so do we. We have a couple of user communities on there which run independently from SDRplay, although we try and monitor what's going on. But it's a place where users get together and exchange ideas and solve each other's problems. And we're also on various mailing groups like groups.io. So there's tons of resources out there to make sure you get the absolute maximum you can out of your software-defined radio receiver.
Thank you, Steve. I definitely look forward to experimenting more with the SDRuno plugins. For Ham Radio Outlet, I'm Julian Frost, N3JF, your Ham Radio Sensei. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and join us on all our social media platforms to stay informed on the latest amateur radio products, sales, and events.